Bonjour, madame and monsieur, and welcome along to PSGL PSF2. We are here tonight for season 33. It's round 3 of the championship as we take in the French Grand Prix from, of course, Le Castellet in France at the Circuit Paul Ricard. My name is James Head. I'm delighted to be taking to the stream, of course, as always, on this fine Monday evening. And joining me in the comment box back this week, it is Mr. Connell Moore. Connell, how you doing?
I'm doing very well and glad to be back for another week. Sorry for missing last week. It seems like by the race it was quite an interesting one at Singapore, but thankfully I'm back here for France. And France, well, it should be even more exciting. This racetrack in real life might not be too exciting, but in the game, I'm sure it's going to provide us with some great racing action. So definitely looking forward to today.
It will be. It will be. Any race around France that I've commentated on, it normally either's in absolute tears or it just ends up absolutely brilliant racing, and hopefully more of the same will be had, of course, out on track tonight. If you missed, of course, what happened in Singapore, then first of all, where on earth were you? Black Box took the win from Lars in second, and Ari, sorry, finished that in third. One didn't even compete last week, but Black Box now on top in terms of the championship, 21 points to his name. Devon there in second, along with Lars tied on 20 points. Brad is there in fourth on 17. Didn't actually pick up any points last week, disappointing from his perspective. Ari's there in fifth on 14, with Ron in sixth on 10. Twist in seventh on 7. Schumacher, I'll come on to in a second, in eighth on 6 points, along with Johan in ninth on 6, and Gabriel there in 10th on 5. Ryan, Lukaku, Kieran, and Renz are the 14 drivers that have so far picked up points this season. Surface Will Murdoch, Dino, Nuth, Marley, Jerry, Kilcree, Yabraka, along with the reserves of Dylan and Zozo, yet to pick up any points so far this season. And of course, Cuddle, you missed last week. We had Schumacher crash into the pit entry on purpose, causing a safety car. As a result, the stewards decided to give him a 10-second penalty, I believe, 3 license point, a qualifying ban, and 10 seconds worth of penalties to serve on the next event. The reason, of course, was crashing out on purpose. It was caught on the stream. Nobody, I don't think, was going to get away with that from that perspective. Jerry is well involved in this, and he gets 2 license points and 5 seconds added to his final race time as well, with an incident with Ryan on lap 30. Gabrielle and Dylan as well, 2 license points to Dylan, 5 seconds added to their final race time. And as well, Dylan got an additional warning for not cooperating with the stewards. No footage was provided as a result either. Zozo, no further action. No further action between himself and Kieran either. Quite a lot of carnage, let's just face it, in Singapore happened last week. And judging by that, Black Box, of course, leading the championship. We'll run through the constructors because we are getting in towards qualifying as well. AlphaTauri leading the way on 27. Alfa Romeo in second on 26. Aston Martin third on 24, Haas in fourth on 23, McLaren in fifth on 17, Alpine sixth on 6, Williams seventh on 5, Red Bull in eighth on 3, and then Mercedes and Ferrari in ninth and 10th on the nil point so far. Hopefully, they'll be hoping for better results, of course, coming into tonight in France. And Connell, of course, looking at those drivers standings, first and foremost, Schumacher crashing off. He's got a qualifying ban. He is here tonight, so hopefully we'll serve up that qualifying ban immediately. However, though, judging by the drivers' standings, in the first 2 rounds, we've had 2 different race winners, and this could provide some really good action going into France.
Yeah, definitely could. Not only 2 different race winners, but 2 completely different podiums as well. So no driver has been on the podium twice just yet. So it definitely shows that the top guys, there's a lot of them, and they're all very competitive with each other. The top 6 in the championship separated by just 7 points. So it's good to see that there's a lot of drivers up there who are able to battle for those big points, and hopefully we have a wide variety of drivers competing for that championship. But it's still early days. Maybe we could see 1 or 2 drivers really shining through and getting the better results than everyone else. But as of right now, it looks like we're not going to have quite a close grid, which is exactly what you want. And PSGL, PSF2, hopefully it can provide some great racing action here at France. But you can see the first drivers are now getting out on track, getting ready to start their qualifying laps here in France. And hopefully, this should be quite a close qualifying session. This is definitely a very tricky track for the qualifying session, because there's a lot of corners that can really catch you out, a lot of tricky traction zones, and some very awkward bends. So hopefully the drivers can keep it on track, keep it consistent, because I think the track limits are going to be a big factor at this circuit. I think we're going to see plenty of track limit violations, some invalidations here in qualifying, and possibly even some 3-second time penalties in the race, which is well, a driver's worst nightmare. 3 seconds can set you a while back, especially when the drivers are so close and the DRS trains are so long. But, well, there's a driver coming out on track now, and he's going to be the first man to set a lap time, and that is the Red Bull driver of OP Dino, who is coming through the final turn. And, well, let's ride on board for a full lap time of this French circuit and see how quick can Dino go around this circuit as he comes out of the final turn, opens up the DRS, and is now barreling his way down into the first chicane of turn number 1 and 2. You can see tapping that apex there on the inside and then riding that second curb, trying to gain as much time as possible by cutting it as much as he possibly can. Now using the track limits to his advantage there on the entry, as Mali has retired from the session. That's in the pit lane, so I think he's might be certainly the qualifying man, although I'm not too sure. But we're seeing Dino, you can see snap of oversteers. He heads through turn number 7 there, and that is not going to help out in his lap time whatsoever. But that was one of the turns that's it is one of the turns that's really going to catch out the drivers, because you have to get on the power while you're turning the steering wheel, and usually that never ends out too well for the rears. But we're now heading through this next chicane, and it's really important that you get a good exit out of here. But you can see riding the curb there, almost completely losing the car, but Dino showing some decent car control now. He saved 2 slides in this lap, but that's really going to affect his lap time quite heavily. So hopefully he can keep it clean now for this final sector of the lap time, this long winding turn of turn number 11, which he managed to navigate quite nicely. And then don't want to touch the curb on this inside of turn number 12, as it can send your car spinning. Dino not touching that one. He's only got a few more turns to go, but you can see he's actually going to abandon this qualifying lap. So just a few too many mistakes, and he's going to come into the pit lane. Plenty of other drivers are now going to set their lap times, and I think we're going to start to see the pace setters now.
We will see the pace setters indeed. I think Jerry is the next up on track, 49.9 in the middle sector, not looking too bad at all. Dino, though, he was about a second off coming through that middle sector compared to the middle sectors we've been seeing so far, even on my timing screens. Jerry, though, on the run to the line, should be around 30.4, I think, to the line. In fact, it's even quicker, 4/10 quicker, in fact, a 30 flat from him. Kieran, however, the ERT man there going quickest, of course, participated in, or will participate, of course, in the NLR team event that is on a Sunday night as well. Nuka's on a lap as well, 1:14 now coming to the lap, and Pond section of turns 14 and 15. Jess, by the way, in the chat saying, say fantastic, le français. Yeah, about GCSE level E for me in terms of French. As Nuke now, the German, on the run to line, now goes quickest with 1:29.853. Very good lap from his perspective. Kieran there in second, Wilman up there in third. Johan has just gone quickest as well. He is one of the French drivers actually coming into tonight as well. Brad is now going quickest. The man that I said in round 1 could be the future star of TML F2, and certainly proving that so far in this qualifying session, a 10th quicker than Johan. I believe he has qualified for the F1 Esports Challenges, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So that is why he's putting the lap times on the board. Twist as well, get himself in a twist with that first lap. Gabriel back into the pit lane. Ari's coming to the final corner. He's on no sort of lap whatsoever. It is a valid lap. He's on no sort of lap whatsoever. But nearly 6 minutes gone, nearly a third of the qualifying session gone. Brad is out on top, Johan second, Nuke there in third. But look at how close Connell, the top 13 are, covered by around 6 tenths of a second.
Yeah, absolutely nothing between them as the drivers try to get themselves into those crucial 1:29 lap times, which a few of them have managed to done the top 5, all getting onto those crucial times. And yeah, it's like it always is here in F2. The lap times are super close, and they're only going to get closer as the track evolves and the drivers continue to improve upon their lap times. And hopefully we see a nice and tight qualifying session. But out in front, Bradders by 1/10 of a second ahead of Johan, and well, that might not seem like much, but if you compare the gaps between the rest of the drivers, it's quite big, to be honest. So a 10th ahead of Johan, so definitely a good banker time for the McLaren driver, and showing everyone that he has got the pace, and the exact same pace that he had back in Spain when he won the first round this season with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So hopefully he can show that pace again. Obviously didn't score any points last time out, so he'll be looking to rectify that and really pick it up this round, as he's definitely going to be in that championship battle this season. I definitely think so. He's an extremely talented driver who's been developing rapidly recently, and he's going to show that, and he's going to show evidence of that by trying to compete with the top guys. But you can see the rest of the drivers. Johan currently on the provisional front row. QRT Twist managed to get himself into the top 5 with Nuth and Kieran also in the top 4. So a lot of drivers in a very close proximity of each other. You can see Will Murdoch, Lars and Jerry all on a 30 flat, so separated by absolutely nothing. Only 4/100ths separate those 3 drivers. But the first lap times of the session have now been set. We've got 10 more minutes to go, and I think it's at this point of the session where the drivers are now going to start thinking about going on their outlaps and starting those second lap times of the session. But it's definitely looking promising for Brothers, although I'm sure there's plenty of drivers who are a little lower down right now who could really surprise us. Possibly OP Dino, who hasn't set a lap time yet. Maybe the 2 Shazoo Aston Martin drivers who are a little lower down than they would definitely like to be, and hopefully also NLR Gabriel, who hasn't set a lap time, can get up there too. But I think the order you see now is definitely not going to be representative of what we see later on in the session, so plenty of time for these drivers to really show what they're capable of.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dino, by the way, I was on board with him coming out of turns 1 and 2. He's the first one actually on a lap at this stage. And he got completely wide coming out the chicane of 1 and 2. And now coming through Lacombe Pont at turn 14 and 15. I've got to say, it looks a lot neater than his first lap, but it's still not a shining lap from Dino, as he now on the run towards the line. The Red Bull on the run to the line. Might try and outdo me, but there. At 12th position, 30.204. Not good enough, I think, from Dino's perspective. He has got more in the locker. I absolutely know that for a fact. It is such a competitive grid here in PSGL F2. We have to wait and see, of course, who is going to be going onto their fine runs. As Kieran, I think, and Will Murdoch are going to be the next 2 to come across the line, if I'm not mistaken. Schumacher, by the way, still in the pit lane, along with Gabriel and Zozo. Both of them have been in the out of the pit lane before. Zozo ran wide coming out of turn 12, completely obliterated track limits, and no wonder he came into the pit lane, because I thought he was off to the south of France the way he went coming out of turn number 12 in the middle sector. Zozo, though, down in 17, Gabriel in 18. I'm on board with Kieran, the EFT man, through the first sector. 22-2, 4,000s up through the first sector, not looking too bad at all. He's now embarks down the Mistral Straight, coming out of turn number 7, on the run down the Mistral Straight, in towards Le Chicane Nord at turns 8 and 9. Just basically the North Chicane, translated to in English. Timo there in the chat saying Kieran will dominate, mark my words. Yeah, he was quick, I've got to say, from recent events that I've seen him participating in, as the Hassman now comes out of turn number 9, and then up the run in towards turn number 10. Bit of lag there, actually, from Kieran. Not sure if that was picked up potentially on my end as well. 22-2, apparently, in the middle sector. I don't think that's right. He is very much lagging on this lap. Otherwise, I'm now... unless it's my internet that's going, he looks like he is certainly lagging as he gets a spin coming out of turn number 11.
There you go, and yeah, I think he definitely is lagging, because on my screen he was going towards the apex with that spin, but then backs out and teleports to the outside line. So yeah, Kieran sadly having a spin there. He's definitely got some pace. He's only a 10th off of that pole time, but that spin isn't going to help his session whatsoever. When you lose out on one of those qualifying laps and an opportunity to improve, it's really going to hinder you for the rest of the session. So realistically, he's only got enough time for about one more lap. So I think that lap that he could have got in there is going to cost him quite a bit. But you can see Brothers now on his second lap time of the session. He's just beginning. And, well, let's run on board with the provisional pole man. See if he can improve on that 29.7. He's been doing pretty decently so far in this session. And some of his rivals behind are currently on lap times, one of which is his teammate, Jerry Van Bussel, who goes up to P2. Just 2/100ths behind Brothers. So very, very close, and really applying that pressure to Brothers now, who's going to be trying to improve and possibly pull away and extend that gap, as Kieran has actually been disconnected from the session. So there you go, his internet issues really showing themselves now. Hopefully he can get back into the session nice and quickly. But Brothers is now heading down into turn number 8 and 9, and we'll be able to soon see what his middle sector split is. Is he improving on his time? Is he trying to pull away from his rivals? And out of the second sector, he's a 10th up on his time, so aiming to go for 1 minute 29.6. He's only got one more sector to go, and every chance that he can improve upon his time. You can see Devin has now gone up to P3 with a 29.8. Johan was not able to improve upon his time just yet, so maybe a little bit worrying for the Alpine driver, but still 6.5 minutes left to go. So he still has opportunities to really challenge Bradders for that pole position. But Bradders now, he's only got one more turn to go as he hits a late apex to get himself a very nice exit by using the curb on the outside line. Talent Factory Lars goes to provisional pole position with a 29.6. Can Bradders beat it? Yes, he can. He goes to a 29.6, but 4/100ths quicker than Talent Factory Lars. And as of right now, it's a Talent Factory 1, 2, 3. So that's quite nice to see for the team as they're well out in front of the rest of the grid. But Bradders in P1 and Lars is right behind him, and now Renz pops up to P3.
Yeah, good lap actually from Rent. He is a reserve, of course, in the Red Bull. Twist as well wasn't a very good lap up until he invalidated through the middle sector split. 300ths down in that middle sector was a 49.9. Last time we came here, of course, in PSF2, Jess was in charge of PSF2. That's how long ago we were here, back in France. And it was Shazoo Tom who did take the win. There was a spinner coming out of turn number 11 there. I think that's one of the Alpines, maybe Killtree, just getting out of the way there. But Tom took the win last time out. Dino was second. So he has got form around this track, the man in 16th. And in third was, and I'm just trying to have a look, the man currently who's in P6, Devon, who was P3 around here in France. And that was, of course, season number 30, the last time we came here to France on the F1 game. But Brad is out on top, Lars in second, Ren's there in third, currently a TF124. Black Box there down 11th position, of course, last week's race winner in Singapore. He was electric, I've got to say, last week in Singapore, did a great job. Will Murdoch's not on the lap, Gabrielle's invalidated, Ron is not on the lap either. Zolzo, I think, might have just started one, or he's just backed off one. I think he's done the latter. I think he's just backed off one. But Brad is out on top, Lars in second, Ren's in third. And this is now the part where we really do get into the nitty-gritty of this session. We really do get into seeing who is potentially going to improve on their lap times. We've only, as the yellow flag and middle sector is now gone, 4 minutes to go in the session, just over that, and this is now really crunch time for the drivers. Normally when I commentate around here, we don't see many improvements towards the end of the session. Hopefully, tonight breaks the mould of that. Zolza was down in the first sector as well. Schumacher's still in the pit lane, of course. He can't set a... I don't think he can set an inside lap, basically, to put a setup on and then go out. Oh, in fact, actually, speaking of which, he's just got out on track. As soon as I've said that, on a set of inters, clearly want to get an insight into how the track, of course, is. Don't blame him for going on a set of inters, because he will keep a set of fresh compound tyre on dries toward the end of the race. And him down there in 20th position will have his setup on by the end of this lap. We'll have to watch him carefully, though, because last week we watched him carefully and he ended up punching himself into the wall in the pit lane in Singapore.
Yeah, and that's definitely, it's a shame to see when a driver does that, because it really damages their reputation. And now, obviously, we're a little bit skeptical of him, keeping a close eye on him. Hopefully he doesn't do anything like that again, and it's a one-time thing, but you can never be too safe. So Schumacher, just on his intermediates, making sure his setup is all right, and then I'm sure he'll be coming back into the pit lane to make sure that he can serve his qualifying ban, where he'll be starting from P20. At this French circuit, hopefully it doesn't affect him too much, although obviously it is a punishment, so you'd want it to a little bit. But at this circuit, I think we're going to see a lot of overtaking in the two DRS zones that it has to offer. We're going to see plenty of overtaking, and maybe some drivers that are a little bit weaker in the qualifying session can hopefully recover themselves in the Grand Prix itself. But starting on pole position, well, it's definitely a nice bonus, and it surely cannot hurt. So Bradders will be happy with the position that he's in. But the drivers are now coming out for their outlaps, and their final outlaps of the session, with Jerry Van Bussel coming out extremely early. So he wants to get out ahead of the traffic, make sure that he has plenty of clean air to push on his final lap. But the rest of drivers are coming out on their outlaps, and this is now the final part of the session, the final few minutes. The top four separated by just 1.5 of a second, and it's really anyone's game. 3 Talent Factory drivers all in the top 3, showing their team skill in this F2. But Jerry Van Bussel is now beginning his lap, and this is where the battle for pole position begins.
Yeah, Van Bussel wants to try and hustle on this lap down in towards turn number 1. I like that, to be honest. Jerry on the run down low in towards turn number 1. Turn the timing tower off on the left-hand side. I have a feeling, potentially, he could get a bit of slipstream, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Jerry, though, in towards turn number 1, through the left-hand turn 1, through the right-hand now, turn number 2, gets caught on the curb already, pretty much lap ruined. He ran on the curb there on the outside of turn number 2, got away with it. Schumacher retires in the pit lane out of the session. Jerry, though, through turn number 3, invalidates too much curb coming through turn number 3, wasn't happy at all through the first sector split, so that is him done so far in his lap. And is that him done potentially for the session? I think it is, and yeah, it isn't. 29.7. He's got better over a minute to go, so it's not too bad. Johan has just gone up on the lap. Nuke's just preparing up for a lap as well. I'm trying to see actually who's furthest on, potentially on a lap. Bear with me while I try and navigate things. Kilcree, I think, is one of the furthest on the lap. 22.1 in the first sector, a tenth and a half up. Of course, the Frenchman in the French team of Team Mentalism. Coming out of turn number 7 now, down Le Mistral straight in towards the Chicane Nord at turns 8 and 9. And that is the competitive first sector for Kilcree. What nobody has done, though, so far, and of course it's banned here in PSGL, but normally you see Slipstream running up the Mistral straight. Normally in team events you do get that. Here, of course, no slipstream allowed from teammates, and therefore, of course, there will be no improvements from these guys. As Kilcree's up in the middle sector, 49.7 in this middle sector split. We've got the timing tower on the left-hand side. So if you see any improvements before us, shout them out. Brad is out on top, Lars in second, Ren's in third, Jerry there in fourth for now, as Kilcree comes through turn number 11, then in toward the left-hander of turn number 12. And this will look like a pretty neat lap, actually, from Kilcree. Really gets the curb nicely through turn number 12. Beautiful, as Jerry is back in the pit lane. He is done. So Jerry there out of the session in fourth. That is him no longer going to be out on track, as Kilcree now comes through Lack and Punt at turn 14 and 15. On the run to the line comes the Team Mentalism man. Is he going to go potentially quickest with this time? Should improve. Kilcree to the line. Goes 7th in the end. Johan, not a bad lap there at all. Johan now coming in, goes quickest. Wow, 29.5. He had a bit of toe coming down the straight there. Nothing to give him slipstream. Brothers is up in the middle sector, though. We'll see what his middle sector split is, and he's 600s up. So Brothers is responding. Not good enough at this stage to take pole. Johan out on top. Brothers in second. Lars now toward the line. The Talent Factory man. As Kira now goes third. Lars there in fourth. Is he going to now jump up? No, doesn't even improve. 4 tenths down. Ren's not improving in the middle sector. Brothers is still 600s up, though. He might be the main man to watch. Jerry there down to 7th as Nuke goes 6th. Ari's into 8th. Kilcree, Blackbox, Ryan stay as they are. Huge jump up from Devon, who goes 2nd. 3rd, of course, even season 30. His brothers now comes through the final couple of corners through Lack and Pont at turn 15. This should be pole position potentially for the Brit as he now embarks himself on the run to the line. The McLaren goes quick as just about 29.488. Big lap time from Brothers. Goes quick as to anybody else on the lap. I think Aries potentially is on a good lap. The Aston Martin coming through the final couple of corners. Now on the run to the line and a very hectic end to this qualifying session. Doesn't improve in the end. 600s down. Twist and Will Murdoch to the line. Twist goes 7th. Good lap from him. Will Murdoch, I think, is on a run as well. Goes stage 14th. Did improve by 400s. Ron is into the pit lane. And that, my friends, is the end of qualifying. I can finally breathe after that end of qualifying. It is Brothers out on top. Johan in second. Devon there in third. And what about that for a turn up for the Bucks? Brothers are 10th clear of Johan and Devon. But look at the top 13, covered by 4 tenths of a second.
Absolutely amazing scenes here in F2, but it's Brothers who comes away with pole position. He was a 10th out in front at the start of the session with everyone's original banker times, and he finishes a 10th out in front at the death of the session. So a great job from Brothers to secure that pole position. Let's see if he can now convert it into a race win and help his championship hopes, because that is exactly what he'll be aiming to do. But right now, it looks like very, very impressive pace from the Talent Factory driver. But yeah, great qualifying session there. Most drivers getting into those 1 minute 29 second lap times at the end, the 29.4. That's an absolutely rapid lap time from Brothers, and super impressive stuff from the McLaren driver Johan, lining up alongside him on the second row of the grid at just 97 1,000ths behind him, so less than a tenth. Devon in third with Kieran on the second row, Lars and Renz on the third row, Twist and Nuth on the fourth, Jerry Van Bussel with Ares on the fifth, Kilcree and Blackbox on the sixth, Ryan and Will Murdoch on the seventh, Gabriel and Ron on the eighth, Dino and Zorzo on the ninth, and on the back row of the grid are the two drivers with the qualifying bans. It's Molly and Schumacher.
It is indeed, as we now are going to go for our intermission break with GT Omega. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Well, isn't this a turn up for the Bucks? My, oh my, mamma mia, it is absolutely teeming down out on track here in France in Circuit Paul Ricard. Who ordered this weather for tonight? It looks like, judging by the rainfall, it's full, wet conditions potentially out on track, which, judging by that qualifying session, Connell, this could get quite interesting.
It definitely could, and we are going to have a super exciting race on our hands in full wet conditions, or actually I think it might be intermediate conditions, but nevertheless changeable conditions. The drivers are now all out on track. They're lining up on the grid. They're getting ready for this race start, and it's going to be super, super tricky off of the line. But let's see our drivers now. You can see no formation. That we have 5 red lights. They're gone. We're away. What kind of tire is it for our pole man of Brothers? It looks like a decent one up in these wet conditions against one Johan who's trying to pull to that outside line up into turn number 1. Can he hold it around the outside? It looks like he might. There's contact between the top 2 drivers. The inside line for turn number 2 for Johan. They're still side by side coming out of the second turn, and it looks like they're going to try and go side by side into turn number 3. Is Johan far alongside? It looks like he is. He has the outside line for turn number 4 now, still side by side. They don't want to give up this race lead. Both drivers want it just as badly as one another, but it's Johan who gets out in front. A brilliant race start for the Alpine driver. Now Brothers is suffering from pressure from ERT Kieran, who tries to get the better exit out of turn number 7. It's a drag race between the 2 drivers, both of them desperate for the slipstream of Johan ahead, but Brothers using plenty of his ERS, and with the lower wings he's going to try and brake as late as he can down the inside. Kieran with a lot more grip in these wet conditions. Now Brothers is under pressure from Jerry Van Bussel behind. Brothers absolutely drowning in these wet conditions. He's fallen from P1 to P3, and now his teammate is looking to get ahead of him, but he just about gets the better exit out of that turn number 9, and he holds his podium position for now. But Brothers running much lower wings. He hasn't got the grip to compete with the drivers around him, so Jerry Van Bussel looks at that inside line into turn number 11. The McLaren driver drifting his way through into the podium positions, and now he will be pushing on. But Brothers goes for a big lunge into turn number 12, tries to regain the position, but simply does not have the grip to do so. And Brothers is really, really struggling on this first lap, going all the way from pole position to P4. That's not what he would have wanted.
Definitely not. Number 3 wide into the background, into Black and Pont as well. The Alfa Romeo of Schumacher trying to force it to the inside. Norman Kilcree still side by side though between Devon and Twist. And Twist now trying to out-drag him down in towards turn number 1. Brilliant first lap. Marley, by the way, got caught up in an incident coming through turn number 6. Therefore, he might come in the pit lane as Devon really snaps the oversteer, gets the job done on Twist. Beautiful move by the Dutchman. He's doing his into 6th. Twist there in 7th. Schumacher, by the way, gaining 7 positions up the race start. Fantastic race start for him. Brothers, though, as you say, getting swamped, and now Lars dives it to the inside line. He's still on the inside line for turn number 5, though. In towards the right-hander now with the first sector split. Will Murdoch diving it down the inside of Twist. Who said these guys would be very easy to go in the early stages in France? Nobody did, as Will Murdoch forces Twist out wide. Harry's around the outside, gets the job done, nearly cut off at the pass, but now they run nearly line astern, running down the straight in towards the Le Chicane. No, there's 3 wide again in the background. Kilcree, Ren, Schumacher side by side, with Ryan as well getting involved with that side by side with Kilcree, trying to go around the outside. And the Williams might just hang this to the inside line. Can he get the job done? VRT Ryan, Kilcree still there on the outside. And now Gabrielle is joining in this fight as well. Mad opening 2 laps. Blackbox now to the inside line, gets Twist. I don't know where to turn in terms of the overtakes here. This is brilliant racing. Johan leads, Kieran in 2nd. Jerry is a result of that mistake with Brothers. And as a result, that battle's now dropped outside of a 2nd. Devon now side by side with Brothers. And I wonder if Brothers potentially has got some potential damage after that cut off at turn number 1. But Johan leads, Kieran 2nd, Jerry in 3rd. Most positions gained early on, 10 positions for Schumacher. Ryan and Renz are side by side. I think Kilcree and Gabrielle have been caught up in a collision coming through turn number 12 on the exit. Devon still fighting though with Will Murdoch coming through the final couple of corners. Ryan and Renz also side by side. I don't know where to turn. Please take over from me, Connell. Johan leads the way, Kieran in 2nd, Jerry in 3rd. This is mad!
Absolute madness indeed, and they're still battling. No one wants to alleviate their pressure from one another, and we're still seeing battles for P11. VRT Ryan is trying to get himself up the order as he goes down the inside of NLD Ryan.
Oh,
Renz into turn number 1 and 2. That's a beautiful move, very smooth through turn number 2, and he gets himself up into P11 on the back of the best race start, which is in the form of Schumacher gaining 10 positions. Absolutely beautiful stuff from him. QRT Twist makes the move on Shizou Ron there to get himself up into P14. No one is giving up in this battle in the midfield now. Meanwhile, up front, it's a little bit more calm, although as I say that, ERT Kieran is still very, very close to the back of Johan, and he's going to be putting him under plenty of pressure. Only 3 tenths between them, and Kieran wants to make sure that Johan knows that he's in his rear view mirrors, and that could force him into a bit of a mistake. But Schumacher has had a good start, but so has Jerry Van Bussel, all the way from P9 to P3. Absolutely amazing stuff from the McLaren driver. That's super, super impressive from Jerry Van Bussel, and he'll be really, really happy with that. ERT Kieran going for a tighter line into turn number 11 in an attempt to claim that apex, but that does not work out for him. Meanwhile, you can see these guys in the midfield still battling. QRT Twist is trying to go down the inside of Nuth into turn number 11, going for a similar strategy that ERT Kieran does, but you can see Zorzo gets on the power too early out of turn number 11, and that sends both himself and Ron spinning to the very back of the grid, both of them having a bad race start after that one, along with Mali, who's down in P20 now as he gets a little bit closer to those guys. You can see Nuth has now dropped all the way down to P16. Was that an incident up ahead or a mistake from the Ferrari driver? But whatever it was, he's now down into P16 as QRT Twist loses the position to NLR Gabriel there, and also Nuth as well. So QRT Twist struggling on the exit of the final turn. The battling continues on, and especially in the slower half of the midfield. Meanwhile, towards the upper midfield, you can see from P5, that's Bradders leading the train all the way down to P8. They're all staying nice and close to each other, but I think looking at Bradders' front wing, I don't think he has any wing damage, and I think maybe just preferred his setup to be better in the dry than the wet. Maybe that's why he was so strong in qualifying. That would definitely explain a lot, but now he's a lot weaker in the race. So was that compromise from qualifying to now the race worth it? I'm not too sure if it was, because right now it doesn't look like he's going to be able to compete for the race win.
yeah, definitely not. Brothers there in 5th is struggling. Devon there in 6th is a master of the wet, but as you mentioned, I think he's got a full dry setup on, and I'm assuming, because the rain has now eased off out on track, he's there in 5th position, doing a fantastic job. Devon there in 6th, also doing a good job, but Johan leading the way, Kieran there in 2nd, Jerry there currently in 3rd, Jerry there on the back of Kieran, 1.1 seconds off the back of him, currently in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. He's trying to gain, of course, on the back, and it looks like actually Jerry is gaining on the back of the front two now. The front two might have left the chat a little bit earlier on, but now, because the rain is beginning to ease off and now the track temperatures are beginning to get into real fruition, Aries on the back of Will Murdoch looks an interesting battle. The Aston Martin on the back of Will Murdoch. Well, look, already, has the rain actually stopped out on track? I think it has, or it pretty much has done. On the Aston Martin, very difficult to see, but it is very, very light now, the rain. You can see in terms of the sky coverage as well, in terms of the clouds. Aries there in the back of Will Murdoch, 7th and 8th position. Still not getting the job done, though, down in towards turn number 1. Johan leads the way, Kieran in 2nd, Jerry there in 3rd, Lars in 4th, Bradders, Devon, Will Murdoch, Aries, Blackbox, Schumacher top 10. Schumacher gaining those 10 positions off the race start. Fantastic start from his perspective. Got lucky as well on some of the incidents on that one. Ryan, Renz, Dino, Gabriel top 15, along with Nuth, and then Twist, Kilcree, Zolzo, Ron, and Marley, who of course got caught up in that spin coming out of turn number 6. He was down at the back of the field, and come back to the Twist and Nuth saga, by the way. Twist, I believe, forced it to the inside line of turn number 13. That is why he had to let through Nuth, and Nuth is now ahead of him, of course, out on track. So didn't want to get put in the steward's book, which is pretty fair, because I don't think anybody wants to end up in the steward's book after last week.
Yeah, definitely not. The steward's showing that they're not going to deal with any bad racing, and that if you do something wrong, you're definitely going to get quite the punishment for it. So all these drivers have quite the incentive now to keep it clean and make sure to uphold a nice racing standard between themselves. But you can see Talent Factory Jerry Van Bussel, you mentioned before, he has been slowly but surely catching up to the top two, and he's now within that 1 second range. So I think the slipstream will be a little bit more powerful now, and hopefully that can drag him a little bit closer. But Jerry Van Bussel, in these wet conditions, a lot better than he was in the dry conditions in qualifying. So I think he's definitely favored the wet setup over the dry setup. But also, another thing you mentioned was the rain, maybe lightening up. So, and you can see by the lap times, it definitely evidence of that, as the drivers, the top three, all setting fastest laps of the Grand Prix. So track conditions are 100% improving, and the drivers are also improving, getting themselves used to the braking zones and the traction zones. But we're now seeing a change of leads as Kieran sends one to the inside into turn number 3. A bit aggressive there from Kieran, as he absolutely sent it into the side of Johan, and conceding the position there, allowing Johan to keep the lead of the Grand Prix. But that little move from Kieran there has now allowed Jerry to get even closer to the top two. But Kieran now, he's getting a little bit impatient, and he wants this race lead, but he has not got the ERS advantage. He's a little bit lower on the battery, and that could see him struggle relative to the Alpine driver ahead of him. So he's got to play this one smart, and he's got to think about his race management now for the next couple of laps.
Yeah, definitely. So apologies, by the way, if I had to mute my mic for a second there. My mum downstairs heard me groan and thought I was in trouble. It wasn't. It was just commentating. Johan leads the way. Even in second, Jerry there in third, Lars there in fourth, Brothers, Devon, Will Murdoch, Aries, Blackbox, Schumacher top 10. Dino's trying to get close to the back of Renz in the mid-pack. 2 tenths per second, separating both Red Bulls and the purple middle sector to boot from Dino. So he's trying to make up for lost ground, obviously in qualifying and in the early stages of this race. He's doing a good job at this point. But Johan, Kieran, Jerry top 3, and I'm going to run on board with Jerry, because now all of a sudden he's got within the second split, and he looks so much quicker compared to Kieran. Nearly absolutely sent it to the inside line. A 14 there at Ponta, now out of 15 at Lacka, I should say, and then at Ponta at 10-15. But Jerry now within the second. DRS will be enabled, of course, when it turns dry. I'm assuming that's going to be in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And if that is the case, we are going to see drivers, I'm absolutely certain, go on to a set of medium compound tyres towards the end of the race, as Jerry is all over the back of Kieran. But again, that is the closeness of the racing. You get thrown out of the dirty air, and for Jerry, he did get thrown in the dirty air there. Will Murdoch and Devon 6th and 7th are doing a good job. They're only 3 tenths per second away from Devon there in 6th. Aries there in 8th is also getting into this battle as well. So there are battles up and down the field. Whether or not drivers want to risk the battles, though, when the dry conditions are going to come, is a different thing. But Johan leads, Kieran in second, and Johan actually is trying to stretch down the straight, trying to gap, actually, Kieran outside of 5 tenths per second. The slipstream range around this track is 8 tenths, as now Jerry pulls to the inside line on Kieran, fakes the move to the inside line. I know the Dutchman better than that. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Jerry there in third on the back of Kieran, but that is the first shot fired for Jerry.
It definitely is, and just riding on board the McLaren driver, you really get a sense for how much quicker he is than Kieran in these conditions. He's really, really strong on these intermediate compound tires, and he's doing a great job so far. And that little look at a move into turn number 8, that now shows that Kieran knows that Jerry is willing to burn a little bit more of his ERS, burn a little bit more rubber to get closer and closer in pressure for that P2 position, which is possibly one of the strongest positions to be in, because you get the slipstream of the driver ahead, but you also get to choose when do you want to overtake for that lead, because I think Kieran, he could do it quite easy. He has that slipstream, he just needs to be a little bit closer to Johan to actually make the move. But right now it doesn't look like Kieran has amazing pace, although as I say, that sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, which instantly gets taken away by Talent Factory Lars. And it looks like both of the Talent Factory guys, they were a little bit further behind, but they've been pushing on for the last couple of laps, and they're now trying to catch up. You can see that's QRT Zorzo, who has fallen down the order all the way down to P20. I think that was a mistake from the Mercedes driver, I should say, in the final sector of the lap time, and he is now behind Mali down in P20. A shame to see for the QRT driver, but yeah, Talent Factory Lars, he's now within that 1 second, and both Jerry Van Bussel and Lars are showing exceptional pace at this stage of the race. And well, right now, as it stands on lap 8 of 27, it seems we could have a 4-way battle for the lead. But it's such a shame to see. You just look back one more position, you see Brothers in P5, and Yeah, after setting that pole position time by 1/10 of a second, it's really been it's not been great watching him struggle so hard and drown in these conditions. But he's holding his own now up against Devon, and he's holding the lead of this train that goes from P5 all the way down to Schumacher in P10. So hopefully he can hold this position, possibly find some pace if the track conditions do actually dry up in a few laps' time.
Yeah, I think he'll be a lot stronger in the second half of the race. If it is going to dry up, I think he will be the quickest man out of circuit. Mark my words, when he wins this race, he will be the quickest man out on circuit, because look at the time now. 2.7 seconds. He's now finally getting into his groove. 2.6 seconds. Bit of a snap there coming out of 14. I think that's where we saw Zozo's spin on the last lap around. William Murdoch, by the way, on the back of Devon, is looking all over the back of him. He's literally been like this for the last lap and a half. I've been on board with him as the lap time, of course, still improve on track. Will Murdoch has looked very quick on the back of Devon, as proven with Ari setting the fastest lap in behind as well. And Will trying to get onto the back of Devon. These two have had fights in the past. I remember Silverstone, I think it was season 31, if I'm not mistaken, where these two actually went side by side all the way down in towards Stowe and then all the way through the final sector in Silverstone. Devon came out on top that day. Will Murdoch, I think, ended up further down the field. So Will has to now try and get onto the back of his fellow rival out on track in Devon. Devon will not be hanging around whatsoever with this battle. However, Will gets a much better exit coming down the Mistral straight. And is he going to try and risk the move in towards turn number 8? I don't think he will. Will is going to stay in behind. Where there's a Will, there's a way. Where there's Gabriel, there is a way to try and get the move on Renz as well. That really didn't work into a cameo, but he looks to the inside line now. They've turned number 8 and 9, and he's going to pull alongside. Is the Williams going to get through? Yes, he is. Renz caught on the outside curve slightly there as well. Nice move from Gabriel. He's into 13th.
Great job from him to move ahead of Renz, who's been struggling recently in the last couple of lap times as he fell behind his teammate and now behind the Williams driver of Gabriel. And he also has a 3-second time penalty to his name. So Renz really struggling in these wet conditions. Hopefully it gets better for him in the dry, although he sends one to the inside into turn number 11 here. So maybe not struggling as much as I thought, because he's going to have the outside line now for this turn number 12, which he tries to go for a switchback move to go to the inside, but it doesn't work. Gabriel covering off that inside line, and while this battling is happening, we're going to see a battle emerge between the top drivers who are now boxing for the first slick compound tires in the session. Dino gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's a rookie error there from the Red Bull driver, and it could see him pay quite a big price come the end of the race, as that could definitely lose him a lot of positions. But ERT Kieran, Talent Factory Liars, they are the first two of the top 5 to come into the pit lane, and will they be faster now on their slick compounded tires? The only problem is they're going to be very, very cold coming out of the pit lane, and it is still raining, but the track is almost completely bone dry now. So I think it's definitely time. You can see riding on board with the drivers, it's completely dry and it's definitely slick conditions. So I think the top couple of guys are going to get caught out a little bit, and this could be ERT Kieran's chance to jump Johan and take the lead of the Grand Prix. He's gone onto the medium compounded tires. You can see not everyone's gone that way, because Tom Factory Lars is on the hards along with Devon, who's also on the hards. Will Murdoch and Schumacher is on the mediums. He's battling it out with Dino as he went down the inside into turn number 6. A great move there from the Alfa Romeo driver. But we're also seeing Tom Factory Jerry Van Bussel very close to the back of Johan, and I assume both of them will be coming into the pit lane. The top 6 all yet to box, and the DRS is now enabled. If you really needed a sign to come into the pit lane, I think that has to be the one.
Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't really help anyone, to be honest, no matter what last time they put in, because it hasn't worked out for the guys who just came in already into the pit lane. There was a yellow flag coming out of the Mistral straight, and that is Dino, who was spun on a set of hards coming out of the chicane Nord at turn 8. Jerry, though, into the pit lane. Johan in, Bradders in, everyone will be in. Bradders, though, will get double stacked, I think, here, potentially by the McLaren. It's not going to cost him that much. I think it's going to cost him the position, however, to Aries. He's going to come in the pit lane. Now he gets served up by his pit crew. He's cost at least 3 seconds, I think, there. Aries, where is he in relation to Bradders? Is he ahead of him? Yes, he is. Bradders, that double stack did not work, my friend. Aries now ahead, and look at where Kieran is. Kieran is out in front of the race, and he's going to be more than a second clear of Johan once the tyres get warmed up. Johan, interestingly, on a set of hard compounded tyres as well. Jerry on a set of medium. So now ERT looks like against Talent Factory. I tell you what though, Lars has really caught up on the back of Jerry. Clearly the action now for the Talent Factory team is to try and work together as a team, individually in a race, where Lars is so much quicker than Jerry on that sort of whole compound of tyres. They have got warmed up very nicely indeed. Mediums though, normally the tyre to be on at this stage of the race, and hopefully that might come to fruition from McLaren as Lars gets a bit of a shake on there coming out of turn number 7, and I think that is actually to go for the move. Jerry to the outside line on Johan, gets the job done, and now Johan is dropping down the field. Lars is under pressurising him now through the chicane north. Schumacher's ahead of Ryan down the straight there as well. Renz, Nuth, Dino all running side by side on the back end as well. So Lars going to get the move done on Johan, running up in towards turn number 10 at Signy. I don't think he is, but he's so much quicker than him coming through that part of the track. And Johan, those hards, my friend, have not warmed up whatsoever, because there goes Lars to the inside line at turn number 12, has to back out there, coming through turn 11. But Lars there, still on the back of Johan and still trying to find a way through his Bradders, is right on the back of Aries as well.
Yeah, Bradders now, it's the dry conditions he's been waiting so many laps for. Lap 11 now, and he's got the setup to match the conditions. Keep an eye on the McLaren driver. I'm sure he'll be skyrocketing through the field, but we're seeing Lars go side by side with Johan. A little bit of contact between them out of the final turn of turn number 17. There's ERT Kieran. He is absolutely flying. Keep an eye on that gap between P1 and P2. It's 2.6 seconds. You heard me right. As Bradders now makes the move on Shizu Aries, he moves himself up into the top 6, and he'll be pushing on his medium compound tires to catch up to Devon ahead of him. But oh, wow, ERT Kieran 2.5 seconds ahead. We're seeing Schumacher go side by side with Black Box through turn number 3, and Schumacher, a nice and easy move for the Alfa Romeo driver, puts him in a top 8 position, and he's doing quite nicely for the man who started in P20 after qualifying ban. He's looking to battle with the likes of Aries and Bradders for top 6 in this race. We're seeing Lars also go for the move on Johan, a nice and easy move using the power of the DRS to his advantage. He gets ahead of the Alpine driver, and I think Johan might have been on a more a higher wing setup because he was a lot stronger in the wet than he now currently is in the dry. But ERT Kieran absolutely flying out in front. Jerry Van Bussel trying his best to catch up, which he is currently doing. He's caught up by about 3/10 this lap. So slowly but surely he's going to reel in ERT Kieran and close down that gap. But the medium compound tires, they're only really designed for 12 laps, maybe 14 laps max. And now the likes of Jerry Van Bussel, Kieran, they have to extend this stint for 17 laps. So I can see and understand why some of the drivers have gone for the hards. The question is, will the tire wear be so great that the hards are actually a lot faster towards the end of the race? Only time will tell, but we still got 14 laps of racing to go, and the top 2 pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap. These 2 are really pushing and really hungry, and it's not only those 2, because Bradders now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I said to keep an eye on him. He's already gained 1 second in 1 lap to Devon ahead of him, and Devon on the hard compounded tires. I think Bradders is going to try to fly past him as quickly as possible now.
Oh yeah, definitely so. Johan on the back of Lars is looking very competitive as well, in 4th position for the One Esports team, doing a fantastic job. Talent Factory, of course, up against them in various different team events across the platform, so this could really be defining for that battle. Schumacher, though, as Charlie mentioned, flying through the field, and he's flying up to 7th position as he passes Aries on the right-hand side to the inside line, down the straight, and a little bit of a shimmy there from Schumacher. He knows, though, he's got a 10-second penalty added to his time at the end of the race, as he's all out of shape there, coming out of turn 8 and 9 through the chicane Nord. And Schumacher just about gets away with it. He is now having to make up every single bit of lost time that he had in Singapore. This man is a very good driver on his day. He knows that, I know that, everyone in the comments section knows that. It's just he loses it mentally, and he lost it mentally last week. But Schumacher in 7th, this is how to come back. No matter if he's got a 10-second penalty, no matter if he's had a qualifying ban, what I like to see is really good racing out on track, and he is proving that tonight, like he did in Spain, where he won out on track and, of course, got taken down into 5th position, I think it was, at the end of the race. As Nuth, however, is on the back of Dino for 13th and 14th position. Unlucky for some, this is not a point-scoring battle either, because Renz and Gabriel are just ahead of these guys out on track. But if all hell breaks loose in front, potentially with Black Box, Ryan and the likes, this could lead them to go into the point-scoring positions, or, of course, if the safety car is deployed out on track, we might see that. We are off through the halfway stage, by the way, here in PSGL F2. PSGL F1, by the way, is going to be live in 12 minutes' time. Jess and Aiden taking to the action, of course, the GOAT commentary team here in PSGL F1. They are going to be taking to the action very soon indeed. Penalty rundown as well, just before I hand over back to Connell. Renz on 6, Dino on 5, and Zolzum on 3 seconds worth of penalties. I think Dino picked up his speed in the pit lane. Renz 2 corner cuts, and Zolzo 1 corner cut out on track. As Dino again on the back of Gabriel. In the meantime, Devon is outdone by Bradders to the inside line of the chicane order, turns 8 and 9. Good job there by Bradders, he's soon into 5th.
Quick work made of the hard compound tire runner of Devon, as now Gabriel makes the move on NLD Renz and moves himself up into P11. Now 6 seconds off of his teammate VRT Ryan, doing a great job to actually escape this battle that he was in. He was battling with Gabriel, Renz and Dino earlier. He's now 6 seconds ahead of them, so good job there from the Williams driver. He's going to be aiming to score a point, and he is a reserve in this PSGL F2, so possibly showing that he might be good enough for a full-time seat later on. We're seeing OP Dino, though. He makes a mistake out of turn number 11 and makes another one as he tries to recompose himself and get himself back on track. He now falls all the way down to P15 and gets overtaken by QRT Twist, so make that P16 as Bradders sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's already broken a second to Devon in less than half a lap time, and wow, Bradders, I mean, you can see why he was on pole position. He's got the dry setup and the dry tires. It's now he's just got to make it work, get himself up into the top 3, and right now he's 2.5 seconds off of the back of Johan and Lars. He's not too far off of that podium battle, and both the drivers ahead of him are on the hard component tires, so he is much faster at this stage of the Grand Prix, as we have our first retirement in the form of OP Dino, who decides to come into the pit lane after that spin and retire the car. Shame to see, but I don't think he was in the battle for points, so just getting a little bit frustrated there, and he is out of the race as well. Murdoch, actually, I think he gets disconnected from the session there, maybe leaving. I think it might have been a disconnect, but he is also out. Hopefully he can get back into the session and continue racing, although he's had a really disappointing day today. He was up in the top 7, but now he's in P19 and 28.3 seconds off of P18, so it all really went wrong for the Mercedes driver, and you never like to see that in league racing. But the battle continues on between the rest of the drivers. The drivers have settled down just a little bit now on this lap 15 of 27. We're not seeing as many battles as we were seeing earlier on, but we're seeing the two Alfa Romeo drivers quite close to each other on track, with Devon below 10% ERS. He's really struggling with the battery, and he's no longer got DRS from Bradders ahead of him. Between Schumacher on the mediums versus Devon's hards, I think he's going to be pressurizing him quite a bit, and he could get himself up into a top 6 position. And I mean, you know, even after what he did in Singapore to start P20 and move all the way up to P7 and be battling for P6, it is still quite impressive from the Alfa Romeo driver.
It is really impressive. He has got obviously that 10-second penalty added on at the end of the race, which will put him around Gabriel, Renz, Nuth, that sort of area, 11, 12, 13. So he needs to make up these positions, and then here comes another position because he's passing Devon, I think, down the straight. There's a spinner, and that is suiting him actually because that's Ryan round. Schumacher now up into 6th position, doesn't have to worry about Ryan because he's just gone for a spin, coming out of turn number 6, and he's dropping down behind Nuth, behind Kilcrew potentially there as well. But Schumacher there through and into 5th. Bradders there in 5th as well, into 6th I should say. Bradders there in 5th is doing a good job, but now he's used up all of his ERS. Schumacher has used up all of his ERS. Devon is on 2%. Might not seem like much, but trust me, around this track, 2% is best for nothing in terms of ERS. Johan, however, 8% of ERS compared to Lars and 5% as we see moves. I think further down the field was that Gabriel passing Ren. Somebody passed somebody out on track. It might have been Ryan and Nuth potentially, but Kieran leading the way 2.7 seconds. Hasn't looked back since the safety car, since the restart, of course, with the dry compound and tyres. Jerry there in 2nd doing a great job. Lars there in 3rd. At the minute, the front two seem quite spaced out. Lars and Johan potentially going to be the forward battle, I think, to ride on board with the 3rd and 4th. Lap 17 out of 27 here in France. Up and down the field, we saw battles early on in the field. Hopefully the second half will just be as good as the first half, because normally I say in commentary the second half will always be good as the first. Don't think we can top the first half with full wet conditions.
Yeah, definitely not. We saw so much battling earlier on, but now we're seeing a problem with the drivers and how they're managing their Grand Prix. You can see everyone is just absolutely sending it at every single opportunity, using all of their ERS, and that's why we're seeing so many drivers below that 10% range. And when you get below 10% ERS, you lose time on the straight. The engine just
Oh my
simply
god.
does not have enough power to keep going. But that's why we're seeing the drivers slow down so much. But must have been a mistake there.
There was a mistake. It was Ryan. I was just on board with him on the back of Nuth. He was trying to eye him up coming out of turn number 6 and 7. And Ryan has a huge snap of oversteer, recovers the car well. He's still there in 13th position, but my word almighty, he nearly spun that Williams round.
Yeah, it's such a shame to see from VRT Ryan. He was in P10 in a great position, but now just the inconsistency is striking, maybe due to a little bit of tire wear, a little bit of lack of concentration, and definitely a lack of ERS as he's 0% coming into turn 11. But yeah, VRT Ryan, it's a shame to see him fall from P10 to what is now P13. He's still technically in that battle for a top 10 and points in this race. He's just made it a lot harder on himself. He's got to make 3 moves, and that's on the likes of Nuth, Renz, and Gabriel, and they are no slack when it comes to pace. So Ryan, he's going to have a very hard time of getting himself back up into that top 10, but there's still every chance in this race. I think he's got to start focusing on saving a little bit of ERS now that he's shown that he hasn't got the pace to overtake, and he's actually lost the DRS to those guys ahead. So VRT Ryan not doing a great job as it stands, but Schumacher, on the other hand, he's doing a great job. He stayed within the DRS of Brothers, who's really slowed down now. He was setting fastest laps, he was catching up to the top 4, but it's the same issue as almost every single driver on the grid right now. He is using his ERS at every single opportunity possible, and he's just got nothing to give on the straights. Even if you're below 10% ERS and you're using that overtake button, you're not getting that much of an advantage. So Brothers losing a lot of time on the straights. And if Schumacher manages to build up a bit of ERS, I think Brothers might lose the position to Schumacher. So Brothers, he's not had the best of days. Started in P1, is in P5, and could even drop down to P6 and P7 when Devon's hard compound tires are faster than mediums, which you should see in the last 4 laps or so. So the hard compound tire runners, definitely keep an eye on them. 2.5 seconds between Lars and Jerry Van Bussel. And if those hards do start to grip up relative to the mediums, we could see Lars and Johan drag themselves towards the top 2. But I think the top 2 right now are doing the best jobs in this Grand Prix. ERT Kieran on 20% ERS with Jerry Van Bussel on 40% ERS. He was on 60 a while ago, but he started to use a little bit of it now. That's why he's now within 2 seconds of our race leader, and he's slowly trying to apply the pressure to Kieran and hopefully catch up to that DRS.
Yeah, definitely. So I was literally just going to come on board with that as well, because I did see him catching there on the left-hand side. He is obviously using up that ERS to try and gain. But look at the ERS advantage he has. It's about 13-14% at this stage. And when we talk about percentage differences with the ERS, it is absolutely crucial, especially around a high-speed track like this in France, where slipstream and DRS zones are everything, and straights are everything as well. You've got to have that speed underneath you. Jerry did not use up any speed down any ERS there down the straight, and he caught up under his own volition. So that makes me think Kieran's now beginning to overwear the tyres slightly, and that is why Jerry is beginning to creep closer. He looks stronger up the straight in towards Signy now at turn number 10. Johan on the back of Lars has still been looking very close indeed. No moves happening further down the field. Ren's still on the back of Gabriel. They're having their own private squabble. Bradders as well on the back of Schumacher. Schumacher I should say on the back of Bradders was looking very consistent as well. But Schumacher now just beginning to lack in terms of the pace. Maybe all of those moves and all of that aggressiveness early on with his stint on the set of mediums is now coming back to bite him. And hopefully it's not, because I'd love to see a battle between Bradders and Schumacher, who were, of course, fighting out for first and second in Spain, which might come back to haunt them potentially here in France. We have obviously hopped over the border from Spain to France with Singapore in between, but Bradders and Schumacher are doing a great job. They're in 5th and 6th position, but Charlie mentioned they're very, very good, a very good point, the same with Fabi as well. Not sure if the medium runners will actually make it to the end. They might make it to the end of the race, but it really all depends ideally on how good the tire management is basically, and how good the drivers are at management. If you've got a driving style that is very aggressive, the likelihood is you're not going to last to the end of the race. if you have got a straight line, if you've got a driving style like Schumacher or like Bradders, for example, and you're a little bit easy on the tyres, you can actually save that up. But looking at Schumacher's front right tyre, that is already blistering. So Schumacher is now beginning to lose his tyres quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's a common factor between all the medium runners now, really starting to lose the grip in the medium compound of tyres. That's why Bradders is slowly losing time to the drivers ahead, as we see Nuth go down the inside of Renz, and another showing that the hards are a little bit faster, as Renz on the mediums, a little bit slower than Nuth. Nuth could be in a good position to score some points today, as he's got Gabriel ahead of him on the mediums. But you can see the likes of ERT Kieran, he's worn his tyres by 10 laps now, and by the end of the Grand Prix, those will be 18-lap-old medium compound tyres. Now, the hard compound of tyre, for reference, on a regular strategy are meant to go 15 laps, so extending the medium to 18. Well, it's definitely a good question to ask whether or not they will make it to the end. I think they are actually going to be in puncture territory, so do not be surprised if we see a burst tire or two by the end of this race. Hopefully it doesn't happen to ERT Kieran, because he's been driving brilliantly all throughout the race, and it's only been better and better since the conditions have dried up. So it would be awfully disappointing to see any of the medium runners get a puncture, but it is a little bit likely now, as you can see. You have likes of Kieran, Jared Van Bussel, Bradders, Schumacher, Gabriel, Renz, and Zorzo all on the mediums. So the majority of drivers did go for the hard compound tyres, went a little bit more conservative, and I think by the end of this race, I think they are going to be the drivers that are prospering. I think the hard compound tyre was the right choice, but what do you think? Do you think the mediums can actually make it to the end? And even if they do, will they have enough grip to defend against the hards for the final few laps?
Yeah, it's difficult because normally I say if it was a full dry start to the race, normally the mediums, I think Nuke is going to try and get the job done on Gabrielle through turn 8 and 9. The medium compounded tyres, I normally say about 12 or 13 laps will make it amply. As now Nuke absolutely sends it to the outside line in towards turn number 10 at Signy. This will be brilliant move. This could be one of the overtakes of the season so far, but he's hung off the camber of the corner. The Williams just about keeps the line on the inside line. Nuke tries it again around the outside of turn 11, and do you know what? The Ferrari might just waltzes around the outside. This will be brilliant stuff if the German can pull this on to the inside line, into the point scoring position. Absolutely sensational. Great stuff from Nuke. That is the level of consistency, the level of driving we've got here in PSGL F2. That was absolutely remarkable, and that now just comes to back up my point. 12 laps basically on a set of mediums really do not work. Nuth has just sent it around the outside of Gabriel. Remember, him and Renz have been fighting very, very aggressively indeed, so the tyres are now beginning to wear very much so compared to battles that have happened further up the field where drivers haven't really gone for moves. But regardless, Nuth with an absolute masterful piece of driving around the outside of turn number 12, gets the job done, got the move done, he's into P10, and now in the point scoring positions, and could even gain another position with that Schumacher 10-second penalty overhanging himself.
So there you go, Nuth going for the hard compound tyres, and it's worked out very nicely for him. He had so much more grip compared to Gabriel there, and yeah, it looks like Nuth is going to start to pull away from those guys. He's already almost outside the DRS, but now Renz is getting a little bit closer to the Williams driver. Not going to go for a move just yet into turn number 9, but these two medium guys are going to struggle now. They've got the likes of VRT Ryan behind them, and he could recover his Williams back up into P11, but we're seeing Black Box and Aries battle it out into turn number 10. You can see Aries has broken way too deep there into turn number 11, and he's punted Black Box on the rear there. Aries, he's already got a time penalty, and I'm sure the stewards will be happy to give him another one after an incident like that. Just a lack of racing awareness there from Aries. Just missed his braking point, and sadly that's such a shame for Black Box, who's going to drop down to P9 because of that. But Aries does have a time penalty, and he probably will be given one at the end of the race, so I think Black Box will actually end up retaking that position. He's just got to focus on keeping Noose behind him now. But shame to see Aries just a slight lapse in judgment there. It's definitely possible to happen, but you have to have punishments for these things, which the stewards will definitely have a look at. But if we look closer to the front, Jerry Van Bussel, you said he might have been conserving his tyres a little bit better than ERT Kieran. It looks like that is true, because he's now gained 5/10 in the last couple of laps. He's almost within DRS of the Haas driver ahead of him, and the Haas driver ahead of him has almost got less than 10% ERS. So Jerry Van Bussel, keep an eye on him. He's got a great chance at winning this Grand Prix, but he's not the only one, because Talent Factory Lars is in turn also slowly catching up to the top 2. So I think at the end of the day and in the final few laps, we are going to see a 4-way battle for the lead of this race. But I think it's going to be the hard runners that come out on top. Just it's going to be quite a battle between Johan and Lars.
Yeah, and look at actually Devon on the back of Schumacher. Where has he came from in this battle? Because he was absolutely nowhere near the last lap around. Devon now within 2.5 tenths of a second, coming out of turn number 11, and then coming in towards turn number 12 at Bose. I think that Schumacher has a huge moment of oversteer now. I think this is going to be a let through. Yeah, Schumacher lets him through. Clearly not happy with the tyres. Clearly not going to be getting towards the end of the race on those tyres, potentially. And the mediums now coming out to play from Devon's perspective. So Devon Thuney's into 6th, and there's a big thank you there. That was the racing code for thank you there, running down the straight towards turn number 1. Devon there up to 6th, and Schumacher down into 7th. But Jerry now beginning to march his way into contention. Kieran leading the way, but for how long you could argue, because Jerry is within a second for the first time in about many laps of this race, and he has done a fantastic job. Brent and Ryan, by the way, having their own private squabble further down the field. Zozo picking up a 3-second penalty. Jerry outside of DRS this lap around, but he's so quick down the straight, he is going to get within that second gap and hopefully get the DRS for the first time down in towards turn number 1 and 2. However, big curveball could be thrown in here. Will Murdoch's AI could get involved in this, and if Will Murdoch's AI is still ahead of Kieran coming through the final couple of corners, he's going to get DRS on the back of the Mercedes. So could that actually work towards Kieran's favour more than Jerry's?
Yeah, we'll help him out for the one lap that he gets it, but DRS can only save you for so long, especially since we've seen such a big pace difference between the top 2. But it's lap 24 of 27. We still have 3 laps of racing to go, and the mediums have almost got absolutely nothing left in them. You can see visibly the wear on the tires of the likes of Jerry Van Bussel and Kieran. That blistering is starting to get quite intense, as Kieran is definitely going to get that DRS down the straight now. That will help him defend, or no, he just misses out on it actually. So will he get it at all? Maybe. But Jerry Van Bussel is going to try and overtake before he gets the opportunity to do so around the outside and gets the move done before the braking zone. So Jerry Van Bussel leads this Grand Prix now and is ahead of the Haas driver of ERT Kieran. But as soon as he does that, Talent Factory Lars gains the DRS of ERT Kieran ahead of him, and now he's brought himself and Johan into this battle. And they are not the only hard drivers that are putting mediums, hard compound tire runners who are putting the medium drivers under pressure, because Devon is right on the back of Bradders, and I think he might be looking for a move, using a little bit of his DRS out of turn number 6 and now turn number 7, opening up the DRS, has the slipstream as well. But Bradders running such low wings, it's hard to get close to him on the straight, but Devon is now very close to the back of him, and I think he will be going for a move to get himself into that top 5 soon. But we're now seeing Lars trying to go down the inside into turn number 10 on ERT Kieran. Has not got the straight line speed to do so. He's got so much more grip than the Haas driver. Tries to cover him off. Contact between the two. Lars goes to the switchback move through turn number 11. That is a beautiful move, placing his car perfectly. He's in the top 2, and now he's just got his Talent Factory teammate to beat, and he could be winning this Grand Prix after getting a podium last time out. That would be quite nice for the AlphaTauri drivers. Now Johan gets past Kieran, who actually lets him through there. So both the hard tire runners overtaking Kieran. Now their focuses are set on Jerry Van Bussel.
I was just about to say, I think Jerry's on to win this race, but look at the gap now. It's 3.5 tenths of a second. Lars now on the back of him. The set of hards clearly quicker than the set of mediums, but Jerry knows how to grasp his tyres very well. Not like that though. 3-second penalty picked up. Commentator's curse of the century, and Jerry now pretty much out of running in this race. So it seems like it's now between Lars and Johan. And now I'll argue this point. I think Johan is quicker than Lars, so this is going to be fascinating to watch out for. It is a fascinating race here in France, but Jerry leading the way from Lars in second. Johan has a huge snap coming out of turn number 7. Jerry defends the inside line. Lars is not going to go for it. Johan is low on ERS as well, and I think we might get the Devon and Bradders move after all. Running down the straight, he is closing in every inch of ground, but he's so far, as you said last lap around, Bradders has so much lower wings than him. Devon can maintain the position. Jerry, though, is having to put up a real fight against his Talent Factory teammate in Lars. Lars is right on the back of him. This is potentially championship defining as well, because Lars is right up there in terms of the championship. He's right on the back of Jerry. But what on earth happens here? Jerry is surely going to be going down the field. Regardless, he could still be on for a podium as Devon forces to move on Bradders to the inside on at turn number 11 and just about gets the job done. Bradders comes back at him and towards turn number 12, and the McLaren just about hanging on to the inside line as a tiny tap, but Devon gets the job done. Through into 5th. Lars now on the back of Jerry. Jerry's still leading the way, but for how long? Lars now coming at him, and he's rampaging at him, and now look at Johan on the ERS as well. He's done a fantastic running towards turn 1. Might even go for Lars, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. Jerry leads the way into the final lap of the race. Lars in 2nd, Johan in 3rd. My word, oh word, this is going to be a hell of a final lap of the race. Kieran there in 4th is just dropping nearly a second a lap at this stage, and this is now between the front 3. This is going to get quite personal very quickly as Jerry leads the way. Lars in 2nd, Johan in 3rd. They cascade their way now through turn number 6, and then over turn number 7 as Ari just through on Schumacher. And Schumacher, I think, is fine in terms of his tyres. Yeah, he's still going on those tyres as Jerry has a puncture, I think. Coming out of turn number 7, he does. Jerry's got a rear left puncture, I believe. Just looking on board, it's a front left puncture. Front left puncture from Jerry. And now the Son of Hards are going to have it between themselves. Lars and Johan for the race when here in France. One Dutchman, one Frenchman about to do battle up in towards turn number 10 at Signy. But Lars leading the way. Johan in 2nd. Kieran trying to get those tyres to the end of the race. He's under pressure from Devon. Devon might catch him before the end of the race. But still, coming through turn 11 once again at Beausset. Lars leading the way. He has managed this race really, really well. Johan looked quicker than him in various stages of the race. Jerry is still further dropping down the field. But Lars now out of turn number 12 into the the right hand of 13, into the left hand of turn 14 and 15. Jerry might even end up out of the points at this rate. He's spun as well, coming through turn number 11. But Lars through the final corner on the run to the line. It will be a Talon Factory winner. It's not the one I was thinking. Lars now on the run to the line, wins in France. Johan in 2nd, gave him a real good fight. Kieran in the end just about gets 3rd. Devon in 4th, Brothers in 5th. They did well to get to the tyres at the end. Black Box is defending Schumacher. Schumacher and Black Box to the line. Oh, dragged by 7,000th of a second between Schumacher and Black Box. 7th and 8th position. How close can you get? Aries in the end is 6th. 6th position. Schumacher, of course, will have a 10-second penalty, so we'll work out if we can where he'll go. In fact, I can work out where he'll go. He'll go 9th position behind Nuth, as a result of that 10-second penalty from last week. But my, Quaddle, what a fantastic end to the race. Lars wins, Johan in 2nd, Kieran in 3rd. Kieran did so well to latch onto that podium, but in the end, the Hards were the one to be on.
There you go. The strategy is king here in France, and it allows Lars to win the Grand Prix. An amazing race from him. The man who was F5 just one season ago finds himself winning a Grand Prix here in F2. I mean, that must be an absolutely brilliant feeling. Johan in P2 with ERT Kieran getting onto that podium. He was lucky not to get a puncture, but at the end of the day, Jerry Van Bussen was the only medium compound tire runner to get a puncture. And what a shame. He has 0 points to his name in the championship standings. He was about to get a podium, but then the RNG strikes him and he still has 0 points in this championship. But it's okay, because he's shown that he can score them, and he can score big points too, so long as his car stays intact, which hopefully it does next week. But the strategy is oh so important, and that just showed itself here today. And the hard compound tire runners, they came out on top. Talon Factory Lars coming out to celebrate his first race win here in F2. Kieran just about hanging on to that podium. Devon just had so much more pace than the medium runners. That really showed the difference between the mediums and the hards at the end. Mediums simply were not designed to go 18 laps in a French Grand Prix. Devon missing out on that podium by just 0.4 of a second, but P4 for the Alfa Romeo. That's still a good result from him. And Schumacher, starting from P20 and with a 10-second time penalty, manages to finish in P9. A great result for both of the Alfa Romeo drivers, and I'm sure they'll be extremely happy with themselves. But here you go. Here is your final race order. Lars on top with Johan and Kieran following him on the podium, with Devon just a couple of tenths behind. Brothers, at the end of the day, he started on pole position. He had amazing pace in qualifying and the dry, but his DRS management and the intermediate compound tire stint just really hurt him in this race, and ended up seeing him finishing in the top 5 rather than in first place. Shazoo Aries manages to finish in 6th, just ahead of Schumacher. That 3-second time penalty could have set him back a little bit more, but 66 1,000 ahead of Schumacher finishes just about ahead of Black Box, although he'll be dropping down behind the Noose, who manages to finish P8. VRT Ryan manages to get the points in the end, so very impressive from VRT Ryan. Gets up into P10 because of Jerry Van Bussel, so even after his spin was able to recover and get some points. And like Gabriel getting P11, and Jerry Van Bussel with that puncture finishes down in P12. But a brilliant race here in France, and super exciting one, as it usually is here in PSGL's Formula 2. But out of all the performances today, there were quite a few crazy ones. But if you had to pick one driver of the day, who would it be?
Well, I think it could be potentially the man that I've just brought into the commentary box, who is just echoing there slightly as he joins. But yeah, I think it might go to Kieran. He did a fantastic job out on track in terms of trying to get those mediums. It wasn't the correct strategy in the end, but in the end, it was a right call at the right time, and it's just so unfortunate he just didn't have the pace in the final 3-4 laps of the race. But we now can speak to him, of course, the man who finished in P3 somehow got the ties to the end. It is Mr. ERT Kieran, and Kieran, my oh my, you were lucky to get a podium.
Yeah, the tyres were 94% right at the end, so
What?
how I did not get a puncture, both fronts were 94%. So how I did not get a puncture, I still have no clue, but obviously I'm just happy I didn't.
You have defied coding physics right there, I think, in terms of 2 tyres being on 94% at the end of the race. But talk us through it, because in the end, you were only going to go one way. You were only going to go backwards towards the end of the race, but you must have enjoyed the battling up front.
No, I did. Obviously, when I first pitted onto mediums, I thought the worst I'd get to is about 72, maybe 73%. But obviously, I forgot to factor in, obviously, with having maybe too much fuel, and then obviously, as the tires get worse, more scrubbing, which then makes them get even worse. Forgot to factor that in, which obviously is why I went for mediums, and then tires just weren't there at the end. Pace is really good until the end, but not much I can do now, except think what could have happened if I'd gone hards.
Yeah, your pace was really, really good. And honestly, even when Jerry was behind you, I was thinking, you're going to hold on, you're going to hold on. Jerry was right there pressurising you. And in the end, Jerry, I thought, was going to win the race. And then it just transcended once again. It was just absolute madness out on track. It was fantastic to watch. You must be very happy, though, with your P3.
A little bit. Definitely thinking it could have been in P1 if I just thought a little bit more, but you still can't be annoyed with P3 considering how the first 2 races of the season have gone for me.
Definitely not, especially with a full wet weather start as well out on track, which I think you obviously being 2.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field as well was fantastic. It comes to show you've got the pace, you have got it in there. You just need to find it and try and channel that, of course, to the end, to the rest of the season that goes forward. Connell, I'm going to come across to you. Any questions?
I mean, that was a brilliant race from you to hang on to P3 in the end there. But were you ever possibly a little bit anxious, especially towards the last few laps, that you could have lost that podium to Devon behind, because he looked really strong on those hard compound tires?
Honestly, I thought I was going to finish P5 because obviously I didn't expect whatever happened with Jerry to happen to Jerry, and then obviously there was obviously a fear that Devon would catch me because he gained about 3 seconds from me on the last lap. So if my tires had gone off that tiny bit more, honestly, I would have finished P5.
Yeah, and lucky to hang on there. And well, a great race, conserving your tires just about enough to keep them under that 100% raise, 100% range. But great job, man, at P3. I'm sure you're very happy with that podium.
Yeah, for the most part. Obviously, want to look for more, but obviously it's a great start and use this to push forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a good way to think as well. That is a brilliant way to think. Obviously, we've got so many races left in the season as well. And just to check on the calendar, we've got a break week next week, but the week after we do go to Austria. Do you like that track? How do you think you're going to get on there?
Hate it. There's a lot of RNG, I think, turn 1 and turn 3 especially, but it's all going to come down to DRS training at Austria as it always has and always will.
It will. It will. It'll be a big old DRS train, and hopefully we get to see some really good racing, some really good overtaking in 2 weeks' time. Go and enjoy your evening, Kieran.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome indeed. We can now, I think, speak to the man who finished in P2 as well and was right, I've got to say, on the back of Lars at the end of the race. My mind just went blank there. It was, of course, Johan, and Johan finishing in P2. Could have it been more? Could have it been a P1?
I think
Definitely.
oh sorry.
Sorry. Seconds. To be honest, no, P1 it was too difficult. Last I had a very good straight line speed, so it was really difficult to overtake him. But yeah, the RS was not too bad. I was over between 15-20%. So yeah, the RS was good. But even if I pushed the ERS, I was yeah slower or I had the same speed on straight line, so it was really difficult to overtake Ross. But yeah, I think there was not much better to do today with P2, to be honest. And yeah, really happy. My first podium in PSGL F2. So yeah, yeah, I could not do. It was impossible to do better today.
Impossible to do better. I like that thinking as well. And that P2 finish was obviously consolidated with Kieran, of course, his tyres dropping off, Jerry having a puncture very late on. Were you worried, perhaps, in terms of Lars picking up a puncture ahead? Because it seemed like you were running low on ERS, he was running low on ERS.
Please.
Sorry?
Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, sorry. I thought we lost you there for a second.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oops.
Oh, I think we're having some tech issues potentially. Hang on, he's left and he'll rejoin. If not, we can just jump him into the waiting room. In fact, actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in the waiting room. Hopefully, it's a bit more stable there, and more. I'm going to jump you across. Right, just like that. We are now joining the waiting room just to see if that is any better. Can you hear us now, Johan? He can't. He can't. Even worse. You can't make it up. It's the tech issues. Johan, are you back with us?
Yes. Sorry, disconnection.
It's totally fine. It is totally fine. I'm saying that, of course, you finish in P2 and Lars was right ahead of you. Do you feel like you could have got Lars potentially if you saved up a bit more ERS?
To be honest, maybe yes, but yeah, if I wanted to overtake him, I had to dive bomb. So yeah, it was quite a bit risky, but yeah, that's how it is, and yeah, I'm happy with P2.
Yeah, risk comes with reward, I've got to say, at the end of the day as well. Connell, coming across to you, any questions?
I mean, Johan, I mean, that's an absolutely brilliant result. To get your first podium in PSGL F2, I mean, it must be a brilliant feeling. Was a podium something you were really expecting coming into this round?
To be honest, no, because I hate this strike. Strike is my home Grand Prix. It's funny, but I hate the Paul Ricard, so I didn't expect it to finish on the podium tonight. So no, to be honest, even if the win was maybe possible, I was leading at the start from the beginning. I mean. But yeah, it was unexpected for me to finish on the podium tonight. So really happy.
And when it came to the pit stops, obviously it seemed like the hard compound tire were definitely the better tire to be on. What was your thought process when you were coming into the pit lane, deciding between the mediums and the hards?
To be honest, so yeah, I pit one lap later than my opponents, the majority of my opponents, and yeah, I was thinking about medium hard. Yeah, we were on lap 9, 10, something like that, and yeah, so a lot of laps to do until the end. So yeah, in my head that was hard compound was a better choice because we've made medium and we saw it with Kieran and and the McLaren Jerry, I think, had problems at the end. So yeah, finally the choice was good with Lars with a hard compound. So yeah, that was it. I think about it a long time, but yeah, hard compound was a good choice finally.
Yeah, well, a brilliant strategy and some great pace led to your first podium in PSGL F2. I mean, that's a brilliant job. Congratulations out there today.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Will do indeed. And that was Mr. Johan, of course. And that is the end of tonight's live stream here for PSGL F2. If you enjoyed the action as much as we did, please like, comment, subscribe, tick that notification bell, of course, if you're brand new to the channel. I really hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure Connell got a very good thrill out of commentating alongside me as well. And of course, we go into Austria in 2 weeks' time, Connell. With that break week now approaching, with Austria, what is now the refocus for the drivers' minds and in terms of the drivers physically as well?
I think the drivers now, they're starting to see how the championship is shaping up. They're starting to see who their main rivals are, what their driving styles are like. They really got to hone in now and focus. What is the right strategies? Are they running higher wings at most circuits, lower wings? Do they like to go for the aggressive tire compounds like we saw with Jerry and Kieran? They went for the mediums. Or did they like to be a little bit more conservative and forward thinking like Lars and Johan? I think you really need to focus on those little details each and every race. But coming into Austria, it's going to all be about pace because those DRS trains are going to be absolutely brutal. But if you have the pace to stay nice and close to the drivers ahead of you, you've got every chance of overtaking them. In Austria, 3 DRS zones in a 1 minute lap time. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see plenty of overtaking action and maybe even a couple of dive bombs into the likes of turn 3 and turn 4. So definitely looking forward to next week.
The elbows will definitely be out, I've got to say, in 2 weeks' time in Austria, and hopefully it is going to be fantastic racing out on track. Hopefully it's not too aggressive. There has been races that I've commentated on which is very aggressive indeed, so hopefully we don't see that, and I'm hopefully going to see a battle around the outside of turn number 6, and that'll be an overtake of the century, overtake of the season candidate, no matter who might pull that off. A big shout out, by the way, to Schumacher as well within that race. He qualified, of course, P20 as a result of that qualifying ban. Finished there in P6 out on track, and if it wasn't for that 10-second penalty, he would have kept that position. He had a real drag race to the line with Black Box in the end of the race as well. So just shouting him out, I think he drove very well tonight as well. And if he keeps his head, and his head is in the game and in the right place, I think he potentially could be a championship contender. I've got no shadow of doubt about that. As I said earlier, he knows that, I know that, we all know that. He just needs to put the mind and the machine literally together to work in sync, and then he will realise his potential, and hopefully we will see that, of course, in 2 weeks' time in Austria as well. However, that is the end of tonight's live stream. PSF1 has literally just begun, I think, in terms of the race. You can go and watch that now. PSF3 also live as well. Mr. Evan Dalton taking you through, of course, F3 along with Brendan, Aidan Carter, and Jess Ball taking you through the action for F1. Other leagues live as well. I think F7, if I'm not mistaken, is live. All of the odd tiers basically are live at this stage. Hopefully you're going to enjoy that. We're going to sign out here. Without a further word, of course, our sponsor, GT Omega. My name's been James Head. He's been Connell Moore. Thank you so much for watching PSGL F2 tonight. And until 2 weeks' time in Austria, goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.